the Uganda election of 1980, when Dr. Milton Obote returned from Tanzania in the month before the December election, he began to rally UP supporters to get his party back into power. He began to speak of the need to return UPC into power. The election on the 10th of December 1980 was a crucial turning point for Uganda. The second election in 18 years. The main political parties, led by Obote and Paul Samugere of the Democratic Party, and Uganda Patriotic Movement, led by the present president, and the Conservative Party, contested the election. Most of Ugandans, Roman Catholic, were DP members. And believe me, you cannot change their mind. Ever since independence, they had been voting DP into power. They had been voting DP on any tickets they get. A lot of people were also not happy. They wanted to prevent the return of another Obote's regime. The military commission was believed to be dominated by Obote's supporters. DP and other contenders faced formidable obstacles. They were not happy that Paul Muwanga, who is the supporter of Obote, was allowed to share the military commission. By election day, Uganda People's Congress had achieved some advantages when 17 UPC supporters were declared unopposed by the simple procedure of not allowing DP or other candidates to run against them. 14 district commissioners who were expected to supervise the procedure were replaced. Those 14 commissioners who were expected to supervise the process of local polling were replaced with Uganda People's Congress nominees. The Chief Justice was replaced by a UPC member. At the same time, in number of districts, non-UPC members were being arrested according to the information the DP gave the newspaper man. They claim that the game was not being played properly. But Paul Mwanga came in and decided to make sure that each party had a separate ballot box on election day. He also made interesting statement that the future parliament would also contain an unspecified number of unelected representatives of the army and other interest groups. And that was a mistake, because they brought a system which the present government picked it up and is using it, putting representatives of the military, they are not elected by the people, into parliament, special interest groups into parliament. And that was the beginning of another problem. When the voting ended, Democratic Party, DP, on the basis of its own estimate, at that moment declared victory. They claim that they won 81 of the 126 constituencies. The British Broadcasting Corporation and American broadcast the news of the DP triumph. Believe me, the street of Kampala was full with DP supporters who believe that their man has won the election, even though they knew that the election, the counting of the election ballots were still going on. At that moment, the chairman of the military commission, Paul Mwanga, took control of electoral commission, along with the power to count the ballots. 18 hours later, he announced a UPC victory with 72 seats. DP claimed that ballot boxes were switched to give their own vote to Uganda People's Congress. Believe me, at that moment, Radio 𝐶𝐻 was at its best once again. Even though when the Commonwealth observer groups declared itself satisfied with the validity of the election. Some Ugandans were not happy with the Commonwealth observers. They even suggested that members of the group measured African election by different standards than those used elsewhere. And Radio 𝐶𝐻 started promoting the chance of a bush war, the chance of a civil war after election. That is what we do best as Africans. If we lose election, after election, you hear that on the polling day, UPC supporters were given priority. And in some other areas, DC supporters' names were not in the register. And today you hear the same slogan over and over again when we lose election. In other areas, polling officers call the names of people to go forward and cast their votes. And obviously, they were UPC supporters. That is what they claimed. Radio 𝐶𝐤𝐬 and its spin doctors claimed that some UPC supporters were given extra ballot papers and voted more than one into UPC boxes. We don't know whether those are true stories or lies. Believe me, when Radio 𝐶𝐤𝐬 takes over, the spin doctors will play important role in spinning up the truth. In the 1980 election, tribal feelings, hatred that had been accumulated for a long time burst open. The Baganda turned on to M7. Let me be clear. Let's not go around blaming all the Banyankole for the crime never committed. We had some bad elements of Banyankole and Baganda who sold their souls to hatred. They hated Obote so much that led them to form a devil. When you break the law, you have to pay for the crime committed. I can understand why Ugandans are very mad about the present president and his family. We all believe that when the time comes, the truth will come out. The truth will come out. And the people of Uganda will learn the truth. We all know that some Ugandan join hands to create the Luwero Triangle. We know that some religious leaders, some cultural leaders, they participated in the planning of the two biggest brilliant genocides in Uganda history. The Luwero Triangle and the actually triangle, under the pretext that 1980 election was reached. Let me go back and try to educate some few people who might not know the truth. You see, the hatred that was accumulated towards Obote and the Northerners started back to 1962 when we got independence. People like 𝐑𝐴𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐻 were poisoned, eliminated, killed, assassinated. Two top, actually military leaders, Okoya and Omoya, were assassinated. Nobody ever investigated what really did happen and why they died. Thereafter, a lot of Ugandans had been killed, assassinated. Even when Amin came to power, he took a lot of prominent people, killed them, murdered them. And when we came back to power in the 1980 election, nobody even bothered to start a commission of inquiry into this killing, into this assassination that had been going on in Uganda for quite a long time. And it went on and on. When Amin left, the military commission was in charge of transitional period up to 1980 election. They allowed the Minister of Defense to recruit foreigners, to recruit refugees into Uganda National Army, training them even in Tanzania using the government taxpayers' money. That is the thing that should have never happened. So when people talk about the 1980 as being the source that took them to the bush, then they are liars. Uganda have a problem, and that problem is connected to whoever comes into power. We have a big problem. If we don't reform the Electoral Commission and stop appointing government supporters to run the business, then there will be no democracy at all. And it is a pity that every time election is being held, we get 150 or 200 people who call themselves electoral observers, whether they are from the Commonwealth, whether they are from African Unity, or whether they are from European Union. Let me be clear. This organization, to me personally, have no mandate to send any observer. African Union is not elected by the people. The Commonwealth is not elected by the people. The European Union observers are not elected by the people. So they don't have to any right at all to send any representative to a government that had been elected by the people. It is time we sit down and try to solve this problem of observers here, observers there. It does not make sense. It does not make sense. And to me personally, they don't have the mandate. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. I will be back.